This is not a fib. I'm going to show you how to play Shadowdark and make a character from scratch in the amount of time it takes for me to make this egg edible. You don't actually need that much to play. Technically, you could play for free as long as you just have another person with you. But in this video, I'm going to assume you have the free PDF and one 20-sided die. How this usually works is the Game Master will think of a number, usually 9, 12, 15, or 18. This is the number that you have to beat on a 20-sided die to succeed at your action. So, let's say you want to jump over a cliff. The Dungeon Master or Game Master thinks of a number. That number is called the difficulty class. And they say, for you to jump over that cliff, you have to roll a 15 or higher on a 20-sided die. And now you can add your strength modifier to this roll. Okay, what's a strength modifier? That's where making your character comes in. We're about to do that. But right now, I have to beat a 15 on this die to jump over a cliff. So we take it and... Ooh. What's advantage? Advantage is something the DM can give, which means you're really good at something. I'm going to give you an advantage. So you roll your 20-sided die twice and take the better result. Now, if they say you have disadvantage to this roll, you would take two 20-sided dice and you would roll and take the worst result. That's advantage and disadvantage. Anyway, back to health. So to make your character, you could use the core rulebook or the quick start rules, which are free online, or you can get the $10 printout for another $9 you can get pre-made characters. We're going to be using the quick start guide today. What I did was printed them out on bigger pieces of paper and put them in a binder. Even though they are free PDFs, I paid for this many times over. Well, that was my mistake. All right, let's make a guy. All right, so we now have our whole character sheet. You can print these out for free online. You can make your own based on what you see. It's all free. So, first thing we're going to do is look at these 6 boxes. These are your stats, your statistics for how good your character is at something. This is where that strength modifier I wouldn't get into that long time ago is from. Here's strength. That's how strong you are, how good you are at lifting things and hitting things with melee weapons. Dexterity is how good you are at dodging and acrobatics and using ranged weapons. Constitution is how hard you are to kill. Intelligence is how good you are with wizardly magics and thinking book smarts. More Sherlock Holmesy. Wisdom is how good you are at priestly magics, more empathy and street smarts. That's more Batman. And charisma is your ability to put people at ease and rally them and not get frightened by the darkness that you will find in this game going through its many dungeons. So, here's how we determine how good you are at this stuff. You're going to need 3 6-sided dice. If all of your stats are below a 14, there's a rule in this game where you can re-roll everything to try to get something better, but you can't save any of the numbers. We're going to roll these dice and put the result on the left side of that slash. But for strength, our character has a 10 strength, 4 dexterity, 14 constitution. They're hard to kill, but they will most likely end up drowning in a puddle. 9 intelligence, 11 wisdom, and finally their charisma, 12. Okay, so this person is notable for being hard to kill. Cool. Now let's get those modifiers. So, for every number in the game, there's a corresponding plus or minus given to that. You really only use the plus or minus when you're playing. The main number just determines what the modifier is. Great. So looking at this, I am now going to pick my character's ancestry. And that determines the species or race of your character. This is where we get to like elf, dwarf, no! Since I'm already starting with a high constitution, I'm going to pick the ancestry that is even harder to kill. and that would be dwarves. So in Ancestry, I put dwarf. That gives me, and I'll put in talents and spells, I know the languages Common and Dwarvish, and I start with +2 to my HP, and I roll hit points with advantage. How do I determine my health? How hard am I to kill? We're going to pick our class now. I'm going to pick, since I'm focusing on being hard to kill, a fighter. They are warriors of the highest regard, and they're tough cookies. I get to roll 1d8 per level, it says, for the hit points for the fighter. Okay, I'll grab my d8. 7 plus 2 from my dwarf, so that brings me to 9 hit points. I also, as a fighter, in talents and spells, put I can use all weapons and armor and shields. I can use everything in the game. As a fighter, I get the ability Weapon Mastery. I choose one weapon type. This guy's going to be good with clubs. Clubs. +1 with club. And then I get grit. Choose strength or dexterity. I have advantage on checks of that type to oppose a force, such as being kicked down or jumping over a cliff. And because that went so bad last time, I'm going to choose I have grit for strength. So I will always get advantage, 2d20s, when doing anything with opposed strength. Roll me fighter talents. At level 1, every class gets to roll on their talent table. It's like a perk, and it happens every other level. So I'm going to roll my 2d6, which it says to do. I rolled a 7, +2 to strength, dexterity, or constitution. I'm going to bring my abysmal dexterity slightly up, so I don't die from walking over something as tight and narrow as the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, we're going to move our way down to gear. It says 20 here, but I can only carry 10 at the lowest, or whatever my strength score is. My strength score is 10, but the fighter has the hauler ability. Add your constitution modifier, if positive, to your gear slots. I have +2, therefore, I have 12 gear slots. And for money, I'm going to roll 2 6-sided dice and multiply it by 5. That's how many gold pieces I have. That's 6 times 5 is 30. How much money I can spend on gear. Armor class. And that's the number that the Game Master has to hit you with one of the Game Master's many monsters. Oh, I can only afford leather armor, so I'll spend 10 gold pieces. We're down to 20. I'll buy leather armor. And with my leather armor, my armor class is 11 plus my dexterity modifier, which is -2. Okay, great. I have a 9. I will also fill out my attacks, which is the last thing you need. So let's buy a weapon. I'm going to buy a club for 5 copper pieces. I'm not going to keep track of that. I'm just going to say that costs 1 gold piece because what I'm using is a stick. I shouldn't have to pay for that at all. Then I'll go to attacks and I'll put club. 1d4, 1 4-sided die. And I get +1 with my club because of weapon mastery. Now that I know I'm a fighter, I'm going to choose my alignment. There is neutral, chaotic, and lawful. Lawful is someone who follows good, justice, and order. Neutral, someone who doesn't follow that. And chaotic is someone who chooses an individualist route / evil. It depends. They're very loose. Don't think too much about it. I'm going to go chaotic. And that means I get my title, which is at the end of the section. Titles. The fighter title for someone chaotic is a knave. I'm also going to pick the deity that I worship, which is going to be Shun the Vile. That's a fun name. And oh, we missed our background. Let's do that. The background is who you were before you became an adventurer. This is something with the 20-sided die. You could roll or pick. You can always pick this stuff. I'm just choosing to roll. And I was a scout. I have a level. I am level 1, and the levels are always the number of your level times 10 is how much experience you need to get. So 0 out of 10. And now, suspiciously, I left the name for last, because what I like to do is take everything I now know about my character and then come up with the name for this chaotic dwarf fighter who was a former scout. And I think that this person's name is going to be Osprey Bruise. We have now made a character. We are ready to play through conversation and fun. There are other rules to this game. You don't really need them. The person running it may know, or they'll make some up. Whatever. You have what you need to play. And I have an egg to go eat. And don't take the egg part of the video too seriously. It's just a yolk.